coming from the Ron Paul world, where I spent the last 9, 10, 12 months, I can tell you, Ron Paul people are absolutely maniacal about the candidate.
Yeah.
There's meetup groups. There's not one meetup group. And this is a problem. And we have to get these people. If Barack Obama's to be defeated, and Mitt Romney's the candidate, we've got to do something. I mean, you're seeing it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I mean, it was like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, when Romney finally won his, umpteenth home state and defeated his latest, like basically put the nail in the coffin of Rick Santorum.
Right.
Everybody was like, okay, you know what? He's the nominee. Let's get behind him. Kumbaya. We're gonna. But as the primaries kept happening and Republican voters kept voting, it was like Romney was making out of these states with like 60% of the vote. Which, congratulations, you got 60%. It's an absolute majority. But you still have 40% of Republican voters in these states
disenfranchised
that are like, okay, yeah, we know you're going to be the nominee. Our candidate of choice has dropped out, but we still prefer our candidate of choice over you because of whatever people's opinions are of Romney, whether he's a Massachusetts moderate or whether he either is a moderate or not a moderate, depends on the day or the type of audience that he's talking to.
Well, that's the old joke, 3 guys walking to a bar, a conservative, a liberal, and a moderate.
Yeah.
The bartender says, "What's up, man?" That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
which one you're going to get.
Exactly.
So, I mean, this is in his, we can talk about his message and try to go all wonky. I'm just telling you the excitement's out there. I'm sure if we went out now, we would not find maybe one bumper sticker. And here we are 6 months from the campaign.
Yeah.
And we have the presumptive nominee.
Yeah.
And there's nobody out there. I guarantee I'll still find a new bumper sticker out there. I know I'll find 10 Ron Paul bumper stickers out there. And Ron Paul has all been stipulated the campaign's over.
Yeah.
This is a problem moving forward.
Yeah. Which is funny because, I live in Claremont. You're in Solana Beach, but I thought it was so funny. Like a few days after he made this announcement that he's no longer officially campaigning, up in Claremont, I saw all these nicely, professionally done signs like, "Hey, if you still want to vote for Romney, or if you still want to vote for Ron Paul, you have until Monday to register to vote. Make sure you register as Republican to vote for Ron Paul by Monday." And it's like it's these big signs, red, white, and blue. They look real professional, and it's like that's interesting.
Well, the interesting part of it is they're not willing to die. They're not willing to die. And the problem with a campaign is, Romney has nobody that's willing to burn their ships. They're not willing. There's no one out there that's willing to take this thing through to the end. I think that's a problem. And if it doesn't change, Barack Obama will be the nominee. Will be the next president because the passion is behind it.
And that's a sad thing.
That is a sad thing. So, the question is what to? I mean, do you walk around with a sign that says, Barack Obama, Tea Partiers for Barack Obama, and hope that people get angry enough? I mean, that's the thought.
I mean, and it's funny, that we're talking about this because there's no enthusiasm. It's like, even when Romney was running for the first time in 2008, I knew a lot of people, within the Republican establishment that were, they're going to coalesce around Romney even in 2008 because they thought he was, a good candidate then. And I still didn't think he was a good candidate then because in 2008 he was actually running as more of a conservative candidate, you could argue, than he did this year.
Well, the Obamacare killed him this year.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I also think even in 2008, the Obamacare thing killed him then too, because it's like, hey, dude, you're running as a conservative against John McCain, and yet you authored this,
state takeover
of healthcare. Right. And I think McCain and Rudy Giuliani, and I was a Giuliani supporter in 2008, and all of them hammered him on that, because even though, Rudy was probably the more moderate candidate in that race, at least Rudy didn't authorize, city of New York mandated health care.
He didn't send a bunch of guys with guns to say, if you don't buy insurance, you get thrown in jail.
Exactly.
That's really what Obamacare is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Romneycare is. So that's behind. He's the presumptive nominee. And the problem now is, where does the passion come from? Because I don't think if it gets out, I don't think he wins. And that's, so I think that'll be an interesting challenge over the next month.
Well, and just being open and honest with you, even with the California primary coming forward, I'm curious to see how many votes Romney's going to get in California from Republican voters. And truth be honest, I didn't vote for Romney in the primary, and some people or criticize me on that, but it's like, look, out of sheer principle, and I'm probably one of the only people in the room or even in San Diego that believes this or even voted for him. But just out of sheer principle, I was, strongly behind John Huntsman, and I wrote in John Huntsman for president my ballot.
Well, that's what primaries are for.
Yeah, exactly.
I will not.
I mean,
and I will not vote for Romney in the primary.
Yeah, well, and good. So we at least, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
So
you know what, the primary is what I get to do what I want to do.
yeah, exactly. And that's the same thing I felt. I felt on principle. I felt John Huntsman. You know, even though some people didn't like him, some people thought he was too moderate. Some people thought, you know, I actually felt he had the most conservative governance record running of all the candidates. You know, his temperament wasn't, you know, fire and brimstone, and I felt like that's actually what's needed in this election. Because I mean, you know, for me, in a perfect world, I'd love to see all the vitriolic stuff that the Obama campaign could do against John Huntsman. Because I think John Huntsman is just a likable guy.
He is a likable guy. I think that's an important thing too. And I think Mitt Romney's a likable guy, but he's just not a passionate guy. And maybe he will. Yeah, I'd like to see his followers. I'd like to see his followers rise up. Otherwise,
see, and you know, and even in San Diego, where you know, remember Mitt Romney has a home in La Jolla. You know, this whole lack of excitement, this whole lack of connecting to other people. You know, we're in the midst of a presidential campaign, even for the Republicans, and you know, going into the general election. And yet here in San Diego, on the front page of the paper, is a big story about Romney, you know, rebuilding this huge home in La Jolla with this revolving garage door of nothing but cars. And it's like, really? You know, people can't find work, people are still on unemployment, people are underemployed, and, you know, even though we're in the midst of a presidential election, he's in the midst of redoing his home in La Jolla, which not many Americans have the wealth to do.
and you know, on the converse you had, when he was out here, I guess a month or so ago for a family vacation, on Twitter I saw someone snapped a picture of him on the beach. And you know what? Here's a guy that was wearing a rash guard and a boogie board, and he looked absolutely cool. And I thought, gosh, why can't that campaign realize that? You know? Yeah. Why can't they realize that that just played to, you know, a granddad playing with his kids on the beach? And you're absolutely right. Yeah. And that's going to be a problem. I don't know how supporters are going to deal with it.